government policy, there should be public transportation into each municipality by bus, flight, or ferry. The Icelandic Road and Coastal Administration is responsible for those routes. As you can see, we have flights from Reykjavik and flights from Akureyri, and not to every town in Iceland. It's just like 6 routes or 5 routes. The yellow is, of course, airplanes, bus is green, and ferries are blue. So we have 3 ferries in Iceland. Okay, and one good thing is that it's a so-called air bridge, which enables those who live in certain designated areas, the blue area, to get 40% discount on flights only to the capital, where most of the service is centralized. And we're talking about 3 round trips a year or 6 individual trips. So now back to me. Like in the capital region, of course, where most of the people live. Sorry.
Hildur, can I ask immediately?
Yeah. What is it, Rina? Do you hear me?
I do. I wanted to ask a question. Is it okay to interrupt and ask?
Maybe after I finish, before I introduce the speakers. How's that? Yeah. So as smaller municipalities merge into bigger ones, as is required by the authorities, this creates longer distances without any public transportation. And in some places like Kópasker, where Stefania is from, or used to live for 30 years, in the northeast, the elementary school merged with another 30 kilometers away, and the municipality does provide driving for students, but the kindergarten closed as well, and parents have to drive their children 30 kilometers each way. And that's a long way to be away from your children if something comes up. Some municipalities provide transportation for elderly people and the disabled, but only with certain requirements. Public transportation is okay, maybe now, Rina, is a good time to ask the question.
Yeah, about those ferries, where do they go? Like, do they go around the island, or like, there were 3 lines? Where exactly? They were smaller islands, or where?
I'll show you, yes. So I'll share it again. PowerPoint. So the islands, you can see there are just 2, one in the west. If you see the west of the country, from Stykkishólmur, there are blue lines, and one in the north and one in the south, a short one. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Rina, Stephanie here, I just want to add, they do not go around the island. They go from the mainland into the islands.
Yeah.
Except Brjánslækur, Stykkishólmur.
Yes.
Which one?
That's in the west. That's in the west. As you can see, the west coast is very cut, deep fjords, and so it takes a very long time to drive. I think it's like 2 hours to drive this way. Or how many hours is the Helga that you have to drive if you don't take the ferry to Brjánslæk?
I can drive in 1.5 hours from Ísafjörður to Brjánslækur, where the ferry is, at the summertime.
Yes, but how long time does it take to drive from Stykkishólmur to Brjánslækur?
2 hours.
To drive?
And it depends on it's summer or winter.
Oh yeah. So the ferry is about the same time. I think it's like 2 hours.
Yeah. And Hildur, Hulda upp í hendina, hún frá, she's from the road system organization, so she would know the answer better. And þú ert með mút, Hulda.
You have the word later, Hulda. Do you want to speak now? Or do you want to speak later?
No, I just want to correct that the total count of ferries run by the Icelandic Road and Coastal Administration are 5. So there's the Vestmann Island ones. It's the one that sails on the Breiðafjord. There's one to the island of Grímsey, another one to the island of Hrísey, and the 5th one is sailing from Neskaupstaður over to the fjord of Mjóifjörður. So total 5.
Yeah.
They're run by the government, and of these 5, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 of them are owned by the government.
Okay.
Just to correct it.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Hulda. So one is privately owned. Okay, we were in the European Rural Parliament in Scotland recently, and there was much talk about infrastructure and lack of public transportation. So it's not just in Iceland, it's in many rural areas in Europe. The Scottish call it access deprivation, where inhabitants cannot reach basic service like healthcare, grocery stores, and recreational facilities. And the Scottish managed to solve it somewhat with voluntary charity organizations. So it shows that solutions don't necessarily have to be complicated or costly with the cooperation of inhabitants, volunteers, and the public sector. But of course, they cannot do it without funding from the government. And also, there's great tradition for volunteering in the UK, whereas it's not as common in Iceland. It's just the rescue team, and that's it, in my experience. Anyway, so that was my introduction. We have 4 speakers today. First one is one of our own, Helga Guðný Kristjánsdóttir. She lives in a fjord in the northwest of Iceland, on the Northwest Peninsula, and will speak as a private citizen or resident about public transportation in her area. Then we have Hulda Rós Bjarnadóttir from the Icelandic Road and Ferry Administration. And like I said earlier, they are responsible for public transportation into municipalities. Third is Katrín Gunnarsdóttir from Kirkjubæjarstofa and Skaftárhreppur, who speaks about public transportation within her community, municipality. And then during our discussion later, we have Hjalti Jóhannsson from University of Akureyri Research Center. They focus on rural studies, and he will give his insights as we go. So thank you all for participating, and I hope you will enjoy. I'll stop sharing my screen. And over to you, Helga.
Stephanie here. To begin with, just let us know if you can hear Helga. Is it okay? Everybody hear me?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
You can move a little bit closer.
Sorry.
You can move a little bit closer to the microphone.
Okay. So we change our seats. Yes. Ef það kemur ykkur sem að þú þetta bæta við það. I was talking to the Road and Coastal Administration, and we have, of course, there's always better roads in Westfjords and mountain roads, and we like to have more tunnels because it's very dangerous mountainside with all kind of avalanche rocks, stones, and snow. And in the summertime, they have a bus who driving from Ísafjörður to Hólmavík. It was nobody who could tell me how often it was, but when you come in Hólmavík, you can get to bus once or twice to the main road from Reykjavík to Akureyri. But and so was something I didn't knew. It's from 2022. It's a group. It's a firma in Patreksfjörður who have money to build up a bus from Patreksfjörður to the ferry in Brjánslækur and then to Ísafjörður, and from Ísafjörður to the ferry in Patreksfjörður. I never
have shown any reclam or information of that. So I hope it will be good for next summer, and this is the road administration, and we have also buses from a company or the Ísafjarðarbær, the main city. They rent this buses, and they don't rent. They hire this buses and chauffeur to drive. It's a lot of people from nearest town from Ísafjörður. They're going to work and school to the main town in Ísafjörður. So it's twice a day to Suðureyri, Flateyri and Þingeyri. So you can go in the morning, 7 o'clock, 7:30, and you cannot come home until 4 o'clock. So if you're going to hospital or something, one meeting or something, you cannot use this transportation. So people in this small areas, they have a network by themselves and talk to friends and family if they have to go to doctor, to hospital, to dentist, something like that, or shopping. They have to count on family and friends. And I know it's two different Bolungarvík and Ísafjörður. They are using their gymnasium together because it's so many kids in Ísafjörður. They don't have place in the house, in the sports hall there to practice. So they're taking the basketball and football to Bolungarvík, and they have together a special bus to drive the kids on their special scheduled time. And I was asking about, like in Suðureyri, it's a big gymnasium hall we have there, and they need more space in Ísafjörður, but they're not using our place. You're only 25 minutes to drive. And yeah, so I'm going to ask the community and the mayor why they don't use it and why they don't put up some bus in the middle of the day so the children can use it or people can use it. But they are always better and better roads, and we not always get better weather in the winter time. Mountain roads, they are high, and I was driving from Ísafjörður yesterday, and in my garden it's what shall I say, snow is 120 centimeters, 1 meter 20 centimeters, and when I come halfway there was no snow, so, and slippery roads, so you always have to be careful. And we have also it's a airplane coming to Ísafjörður once a day mostly. Sometimes if something is very important, you can fly 2 times a day, and I think it's about 50% of the fly they have cancelled the last 1 or 2 months because the wind have to be straight after the airport, so otherwise the plane cannot land. But there was discussing about that last year to close this airplane, airport. Yeah, but we have to have airport because we have medicine doctors and medicine flight, security flight from, and they're coming from Akureyri to Ísafjörður to take the patients to Reykjavík. So, yeah, we just have a tiny hospital with no special doctors in Ísafjörður. So if something is bad wounded or something like that, people are getting stable in Ísafjörður and then they fly them to Reykjavik. So yes, all depends on the weather, especially in the wintertime. And we need more tunnels, like everybody in Iceland who lives in where the high hills are and mountain roads. And we wish we have in the wintertime better weather. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have any questions for Helga? I have one question. Did you try to connect with a firm that has the money to start the bus transportation? Did you call them?
In Patreksfjörður?
Yeah.
No, I just talked to the Road and Coastal Administration, and she said they have paid them from 2022.
So they are already paying them, and nothing is showing.
Yeah. And I told them I've never seen anything about it, never heard about it, and they're going to talk to them and yes.
Yeah,
Find
Rina.
out what. Yeah.
Rina.
Yes, just to ask that, what is the age that you can get the driving license? And do you have a lot of traffic accidents caused by young drivers? And how affordable cars are? That do families have normally 2 or more cars?
You can have a driving license when you're 17. You can drive with your parents or some people have drive for several years. You get a permission to drive a special car with special people. You cannot go in to any next car and drive. And I think like in this area I live in, most people have cars and 2 or 3 every family. And there are not so much buses like in Ísafjörður and it's take you what 15 minutes to drive from one end to another in the town. And people are kostnaður svolítið hár á bíl. Yeah, cars cost and petrol and oil cost. It's always more and more who are buying electricity cars and hybrid cars. I'm not going to buy me an electricity car until I can drive 600 kilometers on the battery, because I have to go in the winter time in snow and cold, very much cold, so the battery is going down very quickly. And when the weather is bad, you're not stopping to load when you know the road is going to be close. So yes, did that answer? So Mia líka með spurning. Yeah, Mia.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I could have just prepared myself and Googled this, but how big of the Icelandic population lives in Reykjavik?
2/3 of the population live in 1 hour in the capital region or 1 hour from the capital. So that's 2/3.
Okay.
1/3 is scattered around Iceland.
Yeah. Okay. And do you have good public transportation in Reykjavik?
Yes. We have buses.
And Juni Pellompera.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hi. You said a couple of times that winter time. What is like the definition in winter time? Do you mean like 1 month or 2 or 3 or 6 months? What is like the winter time? What do you mean in that?
The winter time this year, it's almost the first snow now. But
All right.
early in the morning, they have shoveled the snow off the road and put some gravel or salt on the roads, and doing that from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock in the evening, most days. So very often they close the road if they are thinking of it's going to be snow avalanche or something like that, or very bad weather. But we were very lucky this year. But sometimes it starts snowing in September, October.
Okay.
I remember we had snow in October, Helga. This is not the first
Yes,
snow. When we
I
were in
have a-
Scotland, we had a lot.
My daughter, the youngest daughter, she was born 26th of October, and then was an awful avalanche in next fjord, Flattery. A lot of people die. It was yeah, we couldn't go between. We have tunnel then, but we couldn't use the tunnel because it was all covered with snow, 2, 3, 4 meters, and that was awful. And now it's maybe little less snow in the autumn, but it starts snowing in January, February, and yeah, could be snowing in June. Who knows?
We
Okay.
have had snow in July in the mountains when I was driving from Akureyri to Kópasker, but
Yeah.
usually we have it, as Hilde said, this October everything was closed in Reykjavik because of snowing, and we have snowing into April, so it can be up to 7 months. That is a little bit complicated, but we can have winters that we have just snow for 2 or 3 months. And that's not
Yeah, much.
Yeah, but the buses
Okay.
that I said, the buses that only run in summertime, they only run June, July, August. That's it.
Yes,
So we have
yeah.
winter from September to end of May. That's technically our winter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what is the
Don't start
extreme
talking about
conditions?
weather with Icelandic people.
All right.
Sorry, Joni, what did you say?
Yeah, I was just trying to ask the extreme conditions. Is there you have winter time and then you have this extreme time when everything is stopped or something? So is that how often that happens? Is it once in a month or once in a week, or just try to understand the
know.
situations?
Maybe 2, 3 times a year when everything stops.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're an
When
island.
it's snowing in Reykjavik for Christmas, it was a lot of optimistic people who go out in the summer times, and everything was blocked here, the buses and everything. It was people couldn't go to school and work or something like that. I don't dare to say it. I dare to say it. We in the countryside we laugh at them, but I've been there in traffic like that in Reykjavik, so I know how it is.
There is a question. I'm wondering if Huldarós could have any answers about it. Has the Vegagerðin any information about
Maybe
often-
she will say it later. Mats has a question, and then we should move on to Huldarós.
Mats?
Mats.
Okay,
What's a question?
I'm very ignorant about Iceland, obviously, but when I looked at the map you showed, it looked like northern Iceland is very scarcely populated, and the traffic and public transportation was very poor in those places. Is there a climate difference between the north and the south, or is there what is the reason for being very few people, as I interpret it, maybe wrong, but on the northern side?
I think Hjalti, are you there, Hjalti? Can you talk? I think you had a problem with your mic.
Yeah, but we can say
I'm
that.
here now.
Okay.
Yeah, the question is, could you possibly answer Mats? Do you have this information?
Can you rephrase it? Sorry.
Yeah, it is the reason for why the northern Iceland is scarcely populated. That is, I am interpreting it from the map of transportation that there are not so many people living on the north and the northeast.
Yeah, actually, that's a very complicated question. That demands complicated answers, I guess. 2/3 of the population in Iceland, 250,000, live in the capital area, which are 6 municipalities, Reykjavik together with adjacent municipalities. And then if we extend this area by commuting distance by some 50 kilometers, something that you can drive within an hour, then we have 80% of the population living in the southwestern part of Iceland. But the biggest town outside the capital area is in the north of Iceland, in the middle of the north, town of Akureyri, where I live, with 20,000 inhabitants. And in the region around Akureyri, altogether about 30,000. But it's very, there are very small towns and villages around the country. And only 6% of the Icelandic population, 5 or 6%, live in strictly rural areas. So the settlement pattern in Iceland is very special indeed.
Thank you.
I hope this answers, but we are talking about very sparsely populated country outside the capital area.
Yeah, and as for the weather, when we have the wind blowing from the north, we have very cold in the north and then warmer in the south. When the wind blows from the south, we have rain in the south and nice weather in the north. So yeah, it's very different. The mountains separate the country, so it's very different north and south.
And like if I may, in Ísafjörður, it's about 4,000 people who live there, and we can say it's about 300 in the smaller town. From Ísafjörður to the coast to Patreksfjörður. Patreksfjörður is bigger than Bolungarvík, and so it's and always fewer and fewer farmers who are living there, and most of them are moved or died.
Yes, so let's move on to our first speaker. That's Hulda Rós Bjarnadóttir from the Icelandic Road and Ferry Administration. And Hulda, please take the word.
Hello. I have to apologize if you have any noises around me, but I'm sitting at the main sports hall in Iceland, waiting for another meeting to take place here, which I'm attending. So if you hear any noise, that's just the kids on practice, doing their practice here around me. So I'm just going to share my screen just to have some pictures, not just words. Down. Let me see if it works. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Good. I'm not sure if I can do. Yeah. Do you still see it?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the Icelandic Road and Coastal Administration, by the law of the same administration, is the one in Iceland that is responsible to carry out the rural bus system and make tender contracts with certain areas within the country for scheduling ferry trips and air transportation. We do also, adding on top of that, we have to follow the government policy in public transportation that involves a lot of things. One thing is to keep track of what's happening within the European Union, take places and meetings and so on of all the development that is going on with public transportation within Europe. So in short, we have the ferries, we have the air flights, there to say, we have the rural buses, and we have this, which has already been explained a little bit, that is Lofbrú, and in English it is the air discount scheme. The Lofbrú, I will just talk a little bit more later and go a little bit further into that. So this is just a very, very, I'm not going deep into our work, which we do within at our place. So I'm just going to show you the main thing that I have. Here we have a picture of the new route system for the rural bus in Iceland that has been active since the 1st of January this year. As you see, there is no connection in the East Fjords and also in the West Fjords, and that is because this shows only the lines that have taken any changes from between the 31st of December last year and 1st of January this year. So we had a new tender going on, and this is a new contract that just started last week. Today there are also 4 routes active in the East Fjords, and there are 2 in the West Fjords and another 2 that are only in the summertime. So it's quite vast, the system that we have, and the main area that we have to have our eyes closed up on is the greater capital area. The reason for that is all the small municipalities around the greater capital area, they attend work and school within the greater capital area. So the traffic, the amount of traffic going in and out of the capital area is also increasing problem, we could put it like that, on the road system in Iceland, in the southwest region. Therefore, we have to pay attention that we have good public transportation to travel with to and from the capital area. Because of that, one of our changes in this last tender was to divide the route lines so that if you are traveling just to the capital area and then back to Selfoss, Selfoss is to the right side of the map, we have to take that as it was a one route, and the route from Reykjavik all the way to Höfn, which is on the southeast corner of the Iceland. We want to divide them in 2 routes because of the stress one makes on the another. The same thing we are doing with the north. So you can see there the green line and the red line. The green line is only for the municipalities close to the capital area. The red one goes all the way to Akureyri, which is the second greatest area in Iceland after Reykjavik. And here you see how we've been working our development with the route system. On the left side, you can see just the route that the Vegagerðin, our company, is administrating. And to the right, there you see the green color, the administration route, and the routes which are provided by Akranes. Akranes is the municipality within that area. So we are connecting ours with the other municipalities and making it like a chain. So as an individual living in Akranes, you travel with the smaller line within your hometown to the part where it meets the green line. You take the green line to the capital area. And we are making it fit so you don't have any long waiting time also. Here we have another one. This is Reykjanesbær, and it's the same. To the left, you have just the routes run by the government, and then to the right, you have the one run by the municipality, and the lines with the yellow S within the red circle, that's the logo for our buses, the rural buses. And there you can see where they meet, the meeting points. And for the ones who are not living here in Iceland, on the left side, you can see the international airport marked Kef Airport. So this area is very important to have a good connection, because this is the main way from the international airport to the capital area. From the buses to the ferries, as I just mentioned earlier, that we have 5 ferries which are run by the government. Here you have pictures of the 4 of them, which are owned also by the government. In the upper line, in the left corner, there you have the one which is sailing from Stykkishólmur to Brjánslækur. In the Breiðafjörður, to the right one, there you have the Vestmann Island ferry, which is also one of the few ferries in the world that is actually 100% electricity, but it can also sail with oil, ship oil, and they charge the ferry both in the Vestmann Islands and also in Landeyjahöfn, which is the harbor upon land, like we like to say here in Iceland. It makes it quite unique because it doesn't just sail within a fjord, it sails on open water, like open ocean is actually sailing on the Atlantic Ocean. We have electricity ferries in Norway that sails within the fjord, but sailing within the fjord is not the same as sailing on open ocean in the Atlantic Ocean. The lower one to the left, we have Sæfari. That's a ferry that can take cars and other vehicles. It sails to the island of Grímsey. And then we have Sævar, the ferry that sails within the fjord of Eyjafjörður to Hrísey. Yes. Then just short of the Lofbrú discount scheme. Lofbrú is originally an idea taken from Scotland. As far as we know right now, there has been a discount scheme run by the government for Scotland for the inhabitants that live in islands. So you just have kind of a social security number that you use to apply for the home you are living in the island, and that gives you the ability to have a discount, which, if I'm not wrong, is 50% of the total fare. And there is not any limited usage. You don't have any limited how often you can use this scheme throughout the year. Here in Iceland, we adopted this scheme, but with we had some add-ons. And one of the add-ons is that you don't have any unlimited. You have only 6 trips per year. So one trip is from, let's say, from Reykjavik to Akureyri. If you want to go back, like round, then you use 2. So it's like 6 flights, but only 3 if you're going back. This rounds up every year at 1st of January. That means that if you do not finish the 6 ones before the January 1st, then they are erased from the system and you have a new 6 one. So people try to use them before the end of year, every year, of course. The blue area on the map of Iceland you see here, that are the postal codes in Iceland that give you the ability to apply for the Lofbrú discount scheme. The light blue ones are within that distance from the capital area that they do not apply to you, one who are living in that area. So the difference from Scotland and Iceland is that in Scotland it's for the islands surrounding Scotland, certain islands, but here we have certain distance from the capital area. So this Lofbrú discount scheme is, the main purpose for it is to make it possible for people living far from the capital area to have cheaper fares to travel to the capital area, to attend theaters, family meetings, private things in that matter. It was not originally thought to cover any doctor appointments or so, but according to our statistic that we have from the local authorities in the Eastfjords, the main reason people use it is actually though to travel to meet a doctor in the capital area. That's about it I have. Let me see. Like I said, we have a vast thing to attend. We have the ferries, we have the flight. It's all done with tenders. So each tender for the flights and the ferries about 5 years. So it's 3 years plus 1 plus 1. The buses, they should be approximately 6 years plus 1 plus 1, so 8 years in total. But we are moving from to electricity buses, sorry. So we just have short tenders now, and we are waiting for the infrastructure. And just to sum everything up, all the routes, everything that we are doing is done for the people within the country. We have gathering here and there. If we have new tenders, if we need to make any changes on the routes, try to figure out what the people need. We visit the municipalities, we visit the schools and other authorities. But in the end, it all decides up on what the government each time wants us to provide, and also how much money do we get from the government to produce this service for the people in the country. Sorry if my English was not clear enough. You're free to ask. I'm finished with my introduction. Thank you.
Stefania?
Just one question about I'm not sure if it was quite clear that your verkefnisskylda,
Project.
what you
applied.
Administration, the project administration.
The service that Vegagerðin provides is for the government into its community. It's not inside the municipality, so that just people are sure clear that we are talking about two systems. One, like you could see in Akranes, one is run by the government, Vegagerðin as the provider, and the other one is supposed to be run by the municipality. Just
yes.
I don't know if it was clear somewhere.
I think it was very clear. Okay, Mats?
Well, thank you for adding it.
Yeah, I have a question about usage of the transportation. Do you have statistics on how frequently people are using? If you now we're focusing on the rural areas, if we leave out the capital area, how often are people using the buses? And what I'm especially curious about is this air bridge, or the flights with the special reduced fare. Is that frequently used, or how does it look like?
Just to answer first the statistic, yes, we have statistic for everything we are doing. So we have statistic how often the ferry sails, how many people are traveling with each ferry, how many cars with each ferry, and other goods. Also with the buses, yes, we have statistic from the start point to the end point where people are traveling. So we keep a track of that. In total, there's a very good usage of the people use the ferries a lot, especially the one that sails to the island of Hrísey, which is located within the fjord of Eyjafjörður. Also to the Vestmann Islands. The Vestmann Island ferry is the most used ferry. With the flights, people, the most usage is Hub, which is on the east coast, southeast coast, and then in the Westfjord, Bíldudalur. Bíldudalur less than Hub. The difference is just the size of the municipalities, but if you sum it up with how many live in each area, then there is a good, they use quite frequently in Bíldudalur, which is much smaller than in Hub. In total, when we talk about the rural bus system, if people are using it, and we always get the question, what do you consider to be a good statistic for the buses? Then we say if we have 5 people, 3 to 5 people sitting in a coach that can carry up to 43 people, we say that is a quite good amount of passengers. If you sum it up to, I know you didn't ask to compare to the capital area, but in the capital area you could have the bus full. But just in the rural areas, we are just working with small coaches that carry 16 to 19 passengers. And if there are 3 to 5 passengers sitting in the buses in each trip, it's considered good. But in the real world, we are having none up to 1. But in the best cases, we have 3. So that is the real situation. Why? Just to, if I can get the question, why is it we are the nation of private-owned cars, and the frequency of the rural buses hasn't been that good that you can use it to go to work and have your 8 hours working hour there and come back with a bus. Sometimes you might have to just stay over the night at your working place because you couldn't catch the bus until the next day. So we've been trying to fix this so you have the opportunity to choose, because the rural bus will never replace the private-owned cars, but it gives you the option to choose, like in bad winter conditions, like I can take the bus, it's nicer, I don't have to, drive in this storm. The Lofbrú scheme, could you just repeat the question for me again?
Well, it's a question of how frequently, or is it considered to be a good solution and used well from that perspective? I could rephrase the question like that.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's used a lot. Actually, it is. It's on the tipping words of we do not have enough money to run it. So each autumn we have to visit the parliament with the question of, will you fund it more, or will we have to shut it down because we are out of money for this project?
How many flights do you have per person? Is it 5 per year or?
6 flights, which end up as 3 round trips. Sorry. So we have approximately now 600 Icelandic million kroners each year for it. but it's turning up to we need about 750 millions each year. And it grows really fast from year to year. So this is kind of a bubble that just expands. The main reason for that is that it's a percentage of the price. It's not a fixed number. This discount. That means that the airlines can, raise the prices, lower the prices, and we just have to pay, the percentage of the amount of the fare. Just also a tip of this. If you look into the other flight schemes run in Europe and Asia and America, there are many different kinds. And at the moment, there are two kinds in Europe. The first one we have here, and also in Scotland. You can also find it in Spain. Spain has it too. But then you have another one which you can find within Germany and other places where there is just this fixed number, like I said. If you have a fixed number, it functions like that. The airlines have more hard time hiring the prices of the fare, so it stays more stable. But it's also the game of numbers. You know which one is better. But yes, the answer, yes, it is used, and actually it's used that quite frequently, that people call in and they want more. Why can't you just shut down the rural buses and take the money from them and put it in Loftbrú? It could be better. We heard from one municipality last year. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Hulda. If we don't have any other questions for Hulda now, we can move on to Katrín Gunnarsdóttir from Kirkjubæjarstofa and Skaftárhreppur, and we can always, in a discussion later, if we have time, ask previous speakers more questions if you like. So, Katrín, please. Is Katrín here?
Before Katrín speaks, I just want to address that I have to leave in a couple of minutes to attend another meeting, but Friðrika, which is here, she will gladly stay here further on, and she will answer any questions, as we are like husband and wives at work. So she knows everything that I know.
I would like to ask you one question. That is, people in the capital area, we envy you. I have a friend in Akureyri, and she can come and visit me for half the price. And if I take the flight to her, so people say, why can't we also visit our family or friends in the countryside and have it paid partly from the government? Even though it would just be one time a year, not 3 round trips as now it is for the rural area. As you said, it was not thought about going to doctor. So why not?
That's true. I would just like to add on that because of this, exactly what you were explaining, that the ones living within the capital area, we do not share the same option as the one in the rural areas. And therefore, we have kind of a side project or a side fix with the Loftbrú that allows children that have 2 homes, but their main residency is registered within the capital area. But let's say the parent lives in Akureyri. We have this side fix that gives the parents the option that this child can use Loftbrú discount, even though their residency isn't registered within Akureyri, but in the capital area. So this is kind of a add-on we did because the government said it would like to see this option. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Hulda. I don't see Katrín as a participant.
Well, I'm here.
Oh, you are, okay. So do you want to go? Thank you, Hulda, for your all your input. And yes, we'll ask Friðrika. But Katrín, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Again, hello, everyone. Good to see you all. I want to use this opportunity or misuse the opportunity to send a special greeting to Helga Guðni in the Westfjords. I remember her because I lived there for 17 years, so it was no news for me that what she was saying, and I can confirm that's how it is. I would like to try to share some PowerPoint slides I made, if I can find how I can do it. You see. It seems like that I cannot share. Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have practiced before the meeting. Can you hear me all?
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to show you where Skaftahrepur, the municipality Skaftahrepur, is situated. It's on the southeast coast of Iceland. If someone has a picture of Iceland, it would be nice if you could put it up for me, as I am so handicapped now. The area of Skaftahrepur is the third largest one in Iceland, but the inhabitants also are only, thank you. The inhabitants are only 627. We have public transport from Kirkjubæjarklaustur, which is the village in Skaftahrepur, that goes to Reykjavik once every weekday and on Sundays. It takes about 4 hours the drive. So if you are going from Kirkjubæjarklaustur to Reykjavik or the other villages on the way, you always have to stay overnight. It costs about 23,000 a round ticket. I'm not sure how much it is used, but I know that many of the foreigners who work here use the bus and tourists during the summertime. The area is, we have this village that's in the center of the municipality. You can see it on the map on the south coast. But then we have 5 other areas where there are farmers living. We have no transportation between those areas to the village. But we have transportation for, if I just for the if you talk about the transportation within the area, then the elderly and the disabled, they can have someone to get them, have a car, order a car if they cannot drive themselves because of they are disabled or they don't have a car. And the disabled, they can have a car or a transportation from Klaustur to doctor's appointment or hospital in Reykjavik area and back again for a small fee. But the elderly, they only can have a transportation within the area. That's from their home to the village, Kirkjubæjarklaustur, where for example, the nursing home is, and where the elderly meets once a week. And there's the store and so on. And they also have to pay, but it's a small amount. If you think about the young ones here, then there's no transportation for them to other areas, to other villages, nearby villages. They have to use the public transportation from Vegagerðin, from Kirkjubæjarklaustur to Vík, which is the nearest village. but then they have to overnight. So that's not practical. So every cooperation between schools or sports clubs regarding practices and so on, it's very difficult. Then we have to trust the parents to drive back and forth, and they do that. The only transport we have within the area is for school children, for the elementary students and for the children in the kindergarten, 3 years or older. And that is financed partly by the government. One group that is not often talked about, and I think we had forgot it a little here in Skaftárhreppur, where there are very few young people. There are only about 70 or 80 at the age of 6 to 19. And those who are 16 and older, they are in other areas in school, because we don't have the secondary schools here in Skaftárhreppur. But we have a large groups of foreign residents who work here at the hotels and the hostels. And they complain about that they are stuck. They don't have cars, and they also have to rely on someone else if they wanted to go to Kirkjubæjarklaustur to buy their things or meet the doctor or somehow. Then they have to try to get a car from the director or someone else. So they are pretty isolated, that group. The Icelanders all have cars, 2 cars per home or farm, or if they don't have cars, they have 4-wheeler or snow scooters. So there's has not been very strong demand from the locals to have a local transportation. But I think this is something we have to start to look at. Yeah. Feel free to ask if there's something else you want to know. Did I speak too fast?
Mats has one question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to look at the map of Iceland here and zoom it in, and my first impression is that the rural areas are built up with villages.
Yeah.
And that there are not so many houses outside of the villages, but they are in the villages. It has a boundary, so to speak, quite well defined. Is that a correct view from my side?
Yeah. In the village, there are around 200 people living, and the houses are quite, it's a very, you say, you can walk from between the ends of the village in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But then we talk about 5 other areas where there are farmers with perhaps 3-4 kilometers between them.
Okay.
And there are 5 main areas with a group of farmers. But it takes about 30-40 minutes from the area in the east to come to Klaustur, and the same from the area that is in west to come to Klaustur. So yeah.
Thank you.
And to have a public transportation would be very, very difficult because of how we have now few we are, but something that we must have to think about, because the foreign citizens who are working here, they are about 40% of the population
here in this area. And the guest houses and the hotels, and there's only 2 of them in cluster, but the other ones are spread over the other areas.
Okay, so does that answer your question? So Mia, what is your question?
I was just wondering, do you produce food in the areas or do you import it, and is it more expensive in the rural areas, or do you have regulations and laws for pricing?
Yeah, no, not for pricing. We have to import all products that come from the from Reykjavik area. Though we have producers, of course, local producers, but they're not allowed to sell into the shops, to the grocery stores. So everything that comes here comes from the Reykjavik area, and of course it's more expensive than it's in a bigger area. That's something we have to accept because of the transport cost, but it would be the next low budget grocery store is in Vík, which is 45 minutes from Klaustur to the west. We could drive there ourselves, but then we were so lucky that that store decided to give us an opportunity to order products on app, and they come once in a week with groceries and so on. So that has helped a lot.
That's great.
Can I add a little about the rural areas? About what Mats has been asking about. Farmers in Iceland usually don't live in villages. They are usually spread around because they were at least originally sheep farmers, so they need a lot of area. And a bit about the weather. The reason why there are few people like in the north or east is not because of the weather. Like most people would agree on, there's a better weather in Akureyri in the north than in Reykjavik. Reykjavik is a very windy place and it rains a lot. So it has usually nothing to do with the weather. It is more about the centralization of so many things. Service and most of the what is imported from abroad comes to Reykjavik, and then it is spread around. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
talking
much.
about, excuse me, talking about the weather, then as I told you before, I lived in the Westfjord for 17 years, so I know what the snow is. And when I moved to the southeast, I believed that I was moving to the sunny side of the Iceland. But soon I find out that the snow is not less in the south coast, on the south coast of Iceland. We live in Iceland. It's a rock in the Atlantic Ocean and all kinds of weather everywhere. But we are lucky because the highway or road number 1 goes through Kirkjubæjarklaustur, and that's a road that is almost always open because of the vast majority of the tourists who go here through. And I think that's our luck. That's why the road is always open. Not always, but mostly.
Any other questions? Hjalti, do you want to say something now, or do you have some input?
No, not really. I'm just following, and it's very interesting to hear these stories of experiences from the rural areas. So I'll just chip in if there's something that you maybe want to address to me specifically.
Stefania here. Of course, I want to ask something. I'm thinking about the northeast of Iceland because we saw Hildur and Ivan, we were doing a bit of a research that you had done a research about the northwest of Iceland and the possibility of public transportation there, and if it was affordable, if it would work. But what I'm wondering about is, have you done any research in the northeast from Húsavík over to Vopnafjörður, Kópasker, Raufarhöfn, Þórshavn, Vopnafjörður, if it is possible, and also about, do you know if I talked to the Hilma that was supposed to come on the meeting from the road system organization, and he told me that they have been looking into the possibility of combining again the post, driving with the post and people, but there's some law in Iceland that it's not possible today. They are talking about the possibility of changing this law. Is this something that you know anything about? Maybe for the other ones that don't know, Hafti works for the, Hildur, viltu segja það ensku?
Yeah, I can just do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I work for the University of Akureyri Research Center, and we are located here, as I said before, in Akureyri, in the central northern part of Iceland. You were asking about if we had done any research on public transportation in the northeast. No, we have not directly done that. I can maybe share a map on the total system of public transportation that I found on the webpage of the road administration. So I'll try and share now. Do you see the map here?
No.
It's coming up.
Just loka þessu, set slideshow í gang. Loka þessu share. Já, svona. Perfect.
Do you see this now?
Yes.
So you are probably asking about, here is Akureyri, and here is Húsavík, a town to the northeast of here. And then there is no public. You can't see anything. No one can.
Just your icon.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah,
like a camera.
So there's.
I can see it.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
So what is interesting here is that the public transportation, actually, the system ends here in Húsavík, in the northeastern part of the country. So there are several villages in the northeastern part of the country which are without public transportation, and I'm not quite sure why, but I guess there is not enough demand from that area, but the road administration might be able to answer that. But as I understand it, there are laws that prohibit that you at least mix mail with public transportation. So passengers are not allowed to be in the same space as the mail is. So there are some kind of hindrances towards maybe streamlining public transportation so that we are moving goods and people together, mail and so on. So if we did that, it might be possible to have public services to smaller areas and economically viable. So no, yeah, that's a problem for many of the smaller areas, that the system just ends somewhere, and yeah, you're without service. But maybe basically Iceland is a country of the private car. Public transportation is a small part of the system that people use to move around. So that's how it is. And for example, we were studying in the northwestern part of Iceland, the public transportation system, and we found out that it seems that it's mostly used by youngsters and then older people without driver's license, somewhat by tourists, but not as much as we would have maybe liked. 60% of the tourists that visit Iceland, they take their own rental car to drive around the country.
And now they are promoting this carless lifestyle in Iceland, no, in Reykjavik or in capital area.
You
And
can
so the
enjoy
peop-
you can enjoy carless lifestyle maybe in the capital area and in the center of the capital area and probably in some towns, but if you want to enjoy kind of the freedom of being able to move around, I guess you have to have the private car.
or you have to rent a car every time you want to go somewhere else. So
Yeah,
it's not it's not very feasible.
If you don't own one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But even though you live in Reykjavik, as I do, if I would like to go to work and use the public transportation, the buses, it would take me at around 1.5 hours each way because of the timetable and so on. But so it's not so feasible for people in Reykjavik in this urban area to use the buses.
Actually, we haven't touched upon one interesting thing is the connection of the main international airport in Keflavik in the southwest. By public transportation, it's very challenging to go from there to Reykjavik, actually. But there are special buses going there. But if you want to use just public transportation, it's a challenge. Maybe the road administration, Friðrika, can explain this.
Yeah, they just go to Keflavik. They are not allowed to go to the airport, and then you have to take taxi from the airport to Keflavik too. Yeah.
No, our bus, the one who connects, which connects Reykjavik and Reykjanesbær, that one drives to the airport, but it's not scheduled specifically for the flights. It's more scheduled for the ones just who lives and works in Iceland, but you can use it from and to the airport if it's not very early in the morning or late in the night. There has been problems with our where the bus stops and where you take the bus from the airport, because we don't get the same places as the special buses. It has been very difficult because we are ruled by the Ministry of Infrastructure, but the airport is another ministry. But there are going to be some changes. We are getting a new, what do you say, bus station, which is closer to the arrival and also pretty close to those special buses. So we look very forward to see that happen sometime this year. But we are still just scheduling our buses with the budget we get, so we cannot put some extra work in this one line. Yes. I don't think I have more to say.
Yeah, so Mats?
No, I just want to make a little bit of a comparison to Sweden, where I live on the countryside. It's not, from what I hear now, what you talk about, how many people are on the buses and how often they're going, it is not such a big difference to how rural area is badly serviced also here in Sweden. So I think we could definitely find common issues and perhaps look at common proposals on how to improve that when we meet at the physical meetings that we are planning ahead. Because they are in our area here, it's a lot of the buses are connected to the school kids. So, for instance, the village where I have a summer house and spend quite a lot of time, the bus goes in the morning so that the kids get to school, and it can also pick up any other passengers as well. And then it goes back in the afternoon. But when school is off in the summer, there is no service. So it's only during school time that these buses are traveling. So it's a quite bad service, and I can hear what you are speaking about in Iceland. It sounds that there are quite a lot of similarities, but I think that you have an even more extreme situation, of course, with the sparsely populated countryside, which is making it extreme. Thank you.
I saw someone else raise their hand. Was it Katrin?
Yes, yes. I just wanted to add that the school buses here in Skaftarhepur are only allowed to take students or children to the kindergarten. They cannot take any other passengers. And I think that it's in the regulation that it's forbidden, but it would solve problems if it would be allowed like it is in Sweden. And I also wanted to ask, because I think I have found out how I can share the picture I was going to do earlier, if I may try to put it on the screen. Let me see. No, it cannot be displayed. They say problem displaying the content. I'm so sorry, but I wanted to want you to see where exactly we were situated on the map. But perhaps I will just send you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
About the school buses? There are several years since the municipality here in the east, around Egilsstaðir, they decided that everyone can travel with the school buses, so or even free. So where the school buses go, everyone can use them.
Good to hear. So it's not in some regulation, it is allowed. So it's the municipality that can decide.
I think
That's good
so.
to know. Yeah, good.
I know that in Kópasker, because like many of you know, I used to live there. In the beginning, you could use the bus both for the children that go to the grammar school and the kindergarten, but then later on it was not allowed. So that's why people have to go. So what Vigfús is talking about is really interesting to look into. I see Fredrika has her hand up, so maybe she knows a little bit more about the law behind this.
Yes, was I next?
Yes, Fredrika, go ahead.
Okay, there are some places where some municipalities have got some financial support from some project, and they want to try out like a school bus system and connect it to our system. So we have helped them put up some kind of school bus where also the public can use it. There's examples in the West of Iceland in Borgarfjörður. But because I know in Skaftárhreppur, because we had a meeting with them 1 year ago or almost 2 years ago, because you said like for kindergartens, then it's not possible because I think they are too young. Like if they need to use like those special car chairs and this, so they cannot be on this public transport. But we have like talked to I think almost every municipalities in Iceland when we started scheduling this tender that just went out, or just the contract just started. So because where we cannot have better service, especially in the rural areas, because they are too far, and then there can somewhere be possibilities to work together, like the government or Vegagerðin, and then the municipalities put in some work together and money together, and then maybe there can be a better public transport and school transport. We are open for everything to look into. But we are also working on a very tight budget in this very interesting project, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have one question talking about budget. What about the service that you have been paying since 2022 in the Westfjords? The bus service from Patreksfjörður to Ísafjörður. They have been receiving money and not delivering anything. Do you know anything about it?
In the summertime.
Was it only in the summertime and it's not advertised? Helga said she had never seen anything about it.
Yes, no, we only do it during the summer. Unfortunately, I cannot remember how it started because that's before we took over, because before 2020 it was the Landshlutasamtök that were running the transportation within each area of the country. But this is some special, yeah.
It was after 2020. It was 2022. 2022 was the year they started.
No, yeah, no, and then that's the only thing I know about. It's the summer. Are you not talking about the one between Patreksfjörður, Brjánslækur, and Ísafjörður?
Maybe.
Yeah,
Helga, Helga farin. Okay, yes, so fine, we won't.
But that's some kind of summer transportation, yeah. But we have been looking into like the part where we showed you the map where we were missing the Eastfjords and the Westfjords. That's because we will work on that next too, because there have been, like in the Westfjords, been so many changes last years, and they're still changing, like improving roads. So we kind of need to erase every route and think from the start to plan that. But this you are talking about, yeah. But I can admit, I think we have never advertised it specially, but maybe put on some flyers or something in the stores in the Westfjords. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Gerður, are you the next one? Who was first?
I just wanted to say, because he was asking about I'm the mayor in Vesturbyggð, so I live in Patreksfjörður and I know something about this. I can confirm that these trips have been executed like during the summertime from Patreksfjörður, Brjánslækur, Ísafjörður since 2022. Yes.
Okay.
Only since 22. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then it was.
Sorry, probably before that, but he asked from 2022. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And now Katrín.
Hello, Stephanie here. I was talking, they have come here to close down the house. We have 5 minutes until they are going to throw us out on the office where we are now. So just 5 minutes more.
Katrín, what
Yeah,
do
I
you
will
have?
be very quick. To Friðrika, you said, if I understand right, that the reason that they cannot take another passenger on the school buses is because of the children to the kindergarten, but it has never been allowed. But am I understanding it this
No.
right, that this is a possibility if they didn't have the younger children in the bus?
Maybe, yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not promising anything.
No,
because
okay.
I can
No.
recall that we discussed it
Yeah.
in this meeting. I know about this law that if you have a school bus for kindergarten and primary school kids, then it's not for the public, but also then you can just have to, I don't know, decide something, but I'm not sure about the age. Maybe that's the issue. I'm not gonna.
And one short question to you, Friðrika. You said that you were always willing to cooperate. I was thinking about the route from Kirkjubæjarklaustur to Höfn. There are so many hotels on the way by the highway. Has it ever come into a discussion to stop somewhere for the tourists who are going to the hotels east of Klaustur, like 20 kilometers from Klaustur or further? Is that a possibility?
It's very difficult. I'm not sure it's a possibility because our main project is to service the people who live in Iceland, not the tourist industry. We have looked into this road, Kirkjubæjarklaustur Höfn. It's a very difficult one. It's a long distances.
Yeah, I know.
And yeah, but yeah, so yeah, for now it's very, very difficult to do it.
Thank you.
Mats, did you have your hand up?
I just want to say that we will not be thrown out of the meeting. It's just that the system announces that you have not said that you would have the meeting longer. So
yeah,
it will go on. The meeting as that, the technical meeting will go on if you would like to speak more. So it's not a problem.
And it will just be Stefania who will be kicked out of where she is currently. So do we have any more people that want to ask a question or say something? Maybe you, Mats, Mia, and Rina would like to share what it's like in Finland, Sweden, and Denmark. Mats, you've already shared some. What about Mia and Rina? Do you want to say something? Are they gone? Well, Rina's still here, Mia's gone. So, okay, if we don't have anything, do we have anything more? All right, this has been
I would like to thank you very much for it. It's been very interesting to hear, and I'm also very much now looking forward to come and visit you in May and see for myself more. I've never been to Iceland, so that will be. But it sounds like there are quite a lot of challenges that you are facing, and the structure seems quite different to the one in Sweden. So it's I think we have a lot to talk about.
Yes, and Hjalti?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to follow up this discussion. I just put in want to draw your attention to I put in several links, information about Iceland if you want to take a look before you go here and get yourself more familiarized with the situation here maybe. So
yes.
I just put this in as I was listening to you.
Thank you, Hjalti. And just to elaborate on the meeting that Mats was talking about, so we are going to have a local seminar in May, 10th of May, or around 10th to 12th, 13th, maybe in Kirkjubæjarklaustur or maybe near Flúðir, when we haven't decided yet, but in south of Iceland probably, where we will discuss infrastructure more in a wider context. So we can include electricity and transport also, and service, basic service. And so please keep following us on Facebook and everywhere to find out more about this meeting. Everyone is welcome to join us or to attend, I mean. Yeah, so I think that's it. So I'm very happy about how many people attended. We were about 20 people at least. And I thank you all for participating and joining in with this discussion. And like I said, keep your eyes open for our May meeting, which will be equally interesting. And those are like 2 days, 1 or 2 days of discussions. So see you then.
I put the link to the project website as well in the chat so that you can go and have a look there on what's going on.
Yeah.
Stephanie wants to add something.
No, it was just that we are running the meeting most likely on the 8th and the 9th of May. Either day will be the meeting and a study trip around that, and traveling day to Iceland on the 7th and the 10th. So
okay,
just to correct the time. And now I think maybe, even though I would really like to talk a little bit about the Scottish project that we learn a little bit about in the European Rural Parliament the last of October. I don't think we have time now, but maybe we can go over that later. We will put together a paper about it and put on our website. Most likely in Icelandic, easy to translate today into other languages. And it was really the possibility of how to connect people that are want to work voluntarily, want to help each other. And but it's always a question, if you want to put volunteer to, for example, drive people in Skaftárhreppur to the doctor or to the shop from some small farm, then someone has to pay for the gasoline. And that's what the Scottish people did. They found a way for this. So those who don't know about it, but we will put together a paper. We have it, but we don't have time to go over it now. So I really just want to thank you a lot. If someone has anything more to say, let us know. And otherwise, I would say thank you so much for this, and see you next time.
Thank you. See you in south of Iceland.
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.
for the meeting.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Have a great
Yo,
winter.
bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, and regards from Koskenpää, Finland.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.